Coming up on The World Today. 8 people killed in what appears to be a hate attack on Asians in Atlanta, Georgia, the United States. Intensive care units are operating above capacity in many of Brazil's hospitals as the coronavirus death toll hits new daily records. Plus, China unveils a new 5-year plan focused on innovation in national development. A warm welcome to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. Thanks for joining us on the program. I'm Akaite Afia. Law enforcement officials in the United States say the suspect in Tuesday's fatal shooting of 8 people at day spas in and around the Atlanta area indicates he had issues with sexual addiction and that the shooting may have not been motivated by racial hatred. 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long appeared to have frequented the spas targeted in the shootings and headed towards Florida afterwards, perhaps to carry out further shootings. 6 of the 8 victims were women of Asian descent. Our Washington correspondent Maria Bird reports.
The U.S. suffers once again with mass shootings as a string of shootings at 3 massage parlors in Atlanta, Georgia area on Tuesday night left 8 dead, 6 of them reported to be of Asian descent.
Was identified as Robert Aaron Long, 21 years old, he lives in unincorporated Cherokee County, but he is currently in custody in Crisp County. We've been communicating with them. My understanding they did a pit maneuver on him and took him into custody, as far as I know, without incident. So the suspect, who we believe committed these crimes here today in Cherokee County, is in custody in Crisp County.
Police have not yet offered a motive in the attacks, but because of the many victims' backgrounds, some officials and organizations have raised fears that ethnicity came into play amid rising concerns in the U.S. about anti-Asian violence during the coronavirus pandemic.
Vicious hate crimes against Asian Americans who've been attacked, harassed, blamed, and scapegoated. At this very moment, so many of them are fellow Americans. They're on the front lines of this pandemic trying to save lives. And still, they're forced to live in fear for their lives just walking down streets in America.
The Asian American community is outraged as over 500 times in the last 2 months there have been racial hate crimes against them. From Washington, Maria Bird, Channel Television News.
The VOA's Mike OSullivan is in Los Angeles, from where he is monitoring and following developments. Mike, thanks for joining us on the program today.
Nice to be with you.
So, talk us through how the shooting happened on Tuesday night and what authorities believe his motive was.
Well, what we know is shortly before 5 o'clock local time, there were 5 people shot in an Atlanta area massage parlor. 4 of them died. 1 person survived and was taken to hospital. Then about 50 kilometers away from there was a second report of shootings. 3 people were found dead. And as police were investigating that crime scene, there was a report of a shooting across the road in another massage parlor, and 1 person was dead. So the death toll was 8. 6 of these people were women of Asian background. 1 was a white woman and 1 was a white man.
Well, is it purely coincidental that Asian women happen to have been at the spa? Authorities say that he did frequent these spas. I mean, he must have known that there were Asians at the spas targeted, right?
It's most spas, massage parlors that you see in American cities seem to be run by Asian women. Now, I'm not sure why that is. It's probably a kind of work that somebody with limited English skills can get into, along with restaurant or shop work. But you often see Thai, Chinese, and sometimes Korean massage parlors. And so it's not surprising that when people were killed in a massage parlor, a number of the victims were Asian.
Well, how does this compare to other stories about attacks on Asian Americans in recent times and how authorities have been handling those cases?
Well, we've been getting a lot of reports about attacks, random attacks in the streets, sometimes robberies in New York, San Francisco, and other cities. And it's, the fear is, and Asian American organizations are concerned that these are targeted attacks. Some of the finger pointing is aimed toward former President Trump, who talked about the Chinese virus, referencing the origins of the coronavirus. But it's sometimes hard to disentangle ordinary crimes and the fact that elderly Asians are sometimes victims of those crimes from crimes that are hate crimes and that are specifically targeting Asians. But authorities, California authorities, authorities in other states and federal authorities are concerned that some of these are hate crimes specifically targeting Asians.
Well, Mike, we will be keeping our eye on the situation there. Thanks so much for joining us and giving us further clarity on that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Russia says it is taking all necessary measures to ready itself for possible new U.S. sanctions, following the publication of a U.S. intelligence report accusing the country of political meddling. The 15-page American intelligence report, which was released yesterday, says President Vladimir Putin likely directed efforts to try to swing the 2020 U.S. presidential election to Donald Trump, but that no foreign government had compromised the final results. Russia has debunked the report, calling allegations baseless. The document also fingered Iran in the accusation, saying Iran launched a multi-pronged covert influence campaign in an effort to weaken former U.S. President Donald Trump's support. The report concludes with high confidence that China, which has long been accused of cyber espionage by Washington, chose not to deploy interference efforts ahead of the vote.
Мы не согласны с выводами этого доклада в отношении нашей страны. Россия не вмешивалась в предыдущие выборы и не вмешивалась в упомянутые выборы в этом докладе в 2020 году. Россия не имеет никакого отношения.
Staying on a bit more of America's former President Donald Trump, he has been encouraging supporters to get the coronavirus vaccine. And because they have been waiting for him to say something about this, that he has not decided whether to run again for president in 2024. He made the comment during an interview on Fox News. He spent much of the interview touting his own role in getting the vaccine developed and criticizing his successor, Joe Biden, for increased immigration over the southern U.S.-Mexico border.
I would recommend it to a lot of people that don't want to get it, and a lot of those people voted for me, frankly. But, again, we have our freedoms, and we have to live by that, and I agree with that also. But it's a great vaccine, it's a safe vaccine, and it's something that works. Well, based on every poll, they want me to run again, but we're going to take a look, and we'll see. We have first steps first. We have to see what we can do with the House. If that happened, then I think I'd have an even stronger feeling toward running. I'm not a fan of hers. I think that what she talks about the royal family and the Queen, I happen to think I know the Queen, as you know. I've met with the Queen, and I think the Queen is a tremendous person, and I'm not a fan of Meghan.
The European Union says by this summer, the continent should have kicked off a digital certificate to allow foreign travel as more countries roll out vaccination campaigns. The aim is to enable anyone vaccinated against the coronavirus or who has tested negative or recently recovered from the virus to travel within the EU. The 27 member states will decide on how to use the new digital certificate. Last week, EU leaders agreed to work on a vaccine certificate with southern member states such as Spain and Greece, particularly keen to unlock tourism this summer. It is, however, not clear whether vaccinated people can still transmit the virus to others. Some countries, such as France and Belgium, have also expressed concern that easing travel only for inoculated people would be unfair. Brazil is said to be experiencing what has been described as a historic collapse of its health services. Intensive care units are said to be running out of capacity as the number of people contracting the coronavirus has risen in recent weeks. The leading health institution, Fiocruz, says COVID-19 units in all but 2 of the country's 27 states are at or above 80% capacity. Here's more in our global update.
Authorities in Brazil are saying there are no intensive care beds at all, as more than 2,000 people have died within 24 hours. Health officials in the most populous state, Sao Paulo, have called on the country's new health minister to consider imposing a national lockdown. Authorities in Brazil are saying there are no intensive care beds at all, as more than 2,000 people have died within 24 hours. Health officials in the most populous state, Sao Paulo, have called on the country's new health minister to consider imposing a national lockdown. But Marcelo Quiroga, the health minister, has instead encouraged people to wear masks and wash their hands, stopping short of endorsing social distancing or lockdowns to stop spread of the virus. He's also criticized the use of anti-malarial hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19 patients, saying there is no scientific evidence that it works. Speaking of restrictions, the French government is set to impose tougher restrictions for some regions, including Paris, from this weekend to counter the accelerating spread of COVID-19 infections. The announcement paves the way for new curbs in the Greater Paris region, where intensive care wards are full and the hospital system is buckling with an incident rate of more than 400 per 100,000 inhabitants. The new measures for Paris, according to the French government spokesperson, include some form of lockdown. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he will soon get the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 inoculation, voicing his confidence in a vaccine that has had doubts cast on it across Europe.
I don't know whether the right honourable gentleman's had his. He's had his. But it will certainly be Oxford AstraZeneca that I will be having.
Finally, Palestine has received its first batch of vaccines from the global COVAX sharing initiative, and a boost to inoculations in the occupied West Bank and Gaza lagging far behind Israel's campaign. A Palestinian health ministry spokesperson says 38,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine would be used for inoculations as of Sunday, while 24,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine will be stored until there is a scientific decision from the World Health Organization.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization is expected to make a statement on the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Global health experts have gone under increasing pressure to answer questions over the safety of the jab, as the number of countries suspending its use grows in a blow to Europe's vaccination rollout. The European Medicines Agency says it is investigating reports of 30 cases of unusual blood disorders out of 5 million recipients of the AstraZeneca vaccine. 45 million shots have been delivered across the region already.
We are expecting to maybe come for a statement by the Global Advisory Committee on Vaccine Safety to have a statement out today. Again, we're expecting it. It may come, it may not come. It's up to the committee.
Still to come on the program. Fancy wearing jewelry made from eggshells or using a table or decorative items made from biodegradable material. Look out, people, there are so many ways of saving the environment. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. France's former president, Nicolas Sarkozy, was not in court today as the trial involves him, in which he is accused of financing his failed 2012 re-election campaign illegally, opened. The new trial opened less than 3 weeks after being convicted of corruption and influence peddling. Prosecutors allege that Sarkozy's party spent nearly double the 22.5 million euros permitted under electoral law on extravagant campaign rallies and then used a friendly public relations agency to hide the costs. In the indictment, the prosecutors acknowledged that their investigation had failed to prove Sarkozy either organized or was involved in the scheme, but argued that he benefited from it and must have been aware of it. The 66-year-old has consistently denied wrongdoing, saying he was not aware of a fake billing process. If found guilty, he could be jailed for up to a year and fined up to 3,750 euros. Leaders of the main political parties contending in the Dutch elections have cast their ballots today. Their last day of voting, with Conservative Prime Minister Mark Rutte expected to be granted a fourth term in office. The election is widely seen as a referendum on the government's performance during the pandemic crisis, in which more than 15,000 people have died of COVID-related illnesses, and police have clashed with protesters opposed to lockdown measures. Rutte's main rivals have criticized a slow vaccine rollout, but struggled to distinguish themselves as they support government policy. It has eradicated extreme poverty, and now China is on to the next one, announcing that today it will attach greater importance to innovation in the next 5 years, as specified in its 14th five-year plan, which runs from 2021 to 2025. And it pledges to invest more on research and development. According to the plan, over the next 5 years, China's research and development expenditure will grow by more than 7% every year on average. Meanwhile, the number of high-value invention patents filed per 10,000 people will increase from 6.3 to 12. In addition, the share of added value of digital economy core industries in the GDP will grow from 7.8% to 10%. During this 5-year period, China also vows to strengthen its strategic scientific force, with national laboratories taking the lead. The 5-year plan will also put basic research in a more important position, apart from building a batch of research centers for basic disciplines. It also plans to increase the share of basic research investment in the total investment to above 8% by 2025. The whole of Niger is in deep mourning over the killing of at least 58 people in attacks near its border with Mali. Gunmen reportedly opened fire on 4 vehicles that were bringing people back from a market in the Tillabéri region. It's not clear who carried out the killings, but the region has suffered frequent attacks by armed groups linked to the Islamic State group and Al-Qaeda. Back in January, more than 100 villagers were killed in the region in one of Niger's worst attacks ever. And in neighboring Nigeria, 118 Nigerians stranded in Libya have returned to the country. The returnees arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja at about 1:30 a.m. today via Barouk Air. This was announced by the Nigeria Diaspora Commission in its Twitter handle, explaining that the Nigerians will be quarantined at the Federal Capital Territory Hajj camp for 14 days, in line with the COVID-19 protocols by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. Thousands of Nigerians who were stranded in parts of the world following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic have recently been evacuated back home. Any idea what your favorite pieces were made from? How would you feel if you found out that some of them were made from materials you would normally throw away? Well, one Egyptian is taking this form of recycling even further by using eggshells and nuts to make countertops, decorative bowls, and colorful stones for jewelry.
You can now buy accessories, a table, or fancy items and make sure you protect the environment, thanks to this new material developed by an Egyptian designer. Rania El-Kala uses egg and nut shells to create an environment-friendly material used in many products. The 31-year-old developed the item as part of her research for her master's degree at the German University in Cairo.
أنا كنت مستوحاة من
I got the idea from my father, who used to bring knots and we crack them right before we eat them in order to have them fresh. Most of the knot fruits consist of shells, especially coconut. 67% of it is the shell. It's very hard, and I was astonished that it looks like wood. Why is no one using it? It's a waste.
هي actually القشر especially في
In her Shell homemade art studio, she processes shells into powder, heated to a certain level, so it can later be used to create different products. She collects egg and nut shells from restaurants and shops and always asks her family members not to throw away the much-needed eggshells.
لي إن البروجكت يبقى
I try to use it in making furniture, consumable goods like combs or watches. I also participate with other partners, so it's not only me who's making the products. I can be a material supplier to anyone who wants to use this material for their projects. I can customize it. I can make it hard, soft, according to the color I want, or transparent.
بعمل منتجات.
Her project, Shell Homage, the Pebbles Hanger, won Italy's A Design Award and competition in 2017.
Well, inspiration is certainly all around us. As you can see, she figured out that coconut shells do look like wood. And I think it's important to also mention that we can all find a way that each of us can do our part to help the environment and to do things that can recycle or reuse things that, you know, we might just throw away in our everyday life. Well, that is all for the program. I'm Akaite Afia. Have a great evening and stay safe.